Imagine being trapped in the heart of the Andes Mountains, surrounded by nothing but ice and snow, with no food, no warmth, and no way to call for help. Your plane has crashed, rescue missions have failed, and the only thing keeping you alive is your will to survive. This isn't a fictional story. It's the haunting reality faced by the passengers of Uruguayan Flight 571, a story that has captivated and horrified the world for decades. On October 12, 1972, a Fairchild FH-227D twin-engine turboprop plane took off from Montevideo, Uruguay, carrying 45 passengers and crew. The passengers included the Old Christians rugby team, along with their friends and family, on their way to Chile for a match. Spirits were high as the group joked and laughed, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. Their journey took them over the Andes Mountains, a treacherous route notorious for its unpredictable weather and high-altitude dangers. The pilots, confident in their navigation, prepared to descend towards Santiago. But what they didn't know was that their coordinates were slightly off, and instead of clearing the mountains, they were flying straight into them. As the plane approached the Andes, the weather turned deadly. Visibility dropped to zero as snowstorms enveloped the aircraft. Suddenly, the plane's tail clipped a mountain peak, ripping it apart. The fuselage tumbled violently down the slope before coming to a halt on a desolate glacier. The crash killed 12 people instantly, including the co-pilot. Those who survived were left bruised, bleeding, and in shock. Now stranded in one of the harshest environments on Earth, the survivors faced a grim reality. The temperature plummeted to minus 30 degrees Celsius at night, and they had no proper clothing or equipment to protect themselves. The fuselage of the plane became their only shelter, and the limited supplies they had, just a few chocolate bars, some wine, and snacks, wouldn't last long. But perhaps the most devastating blow came 8 days later. The survivors, hopeful for rescue, saw their hopes crushed when they heard on a small radio that the search for them had been called off. The world had declared them dead. For the survivors, the fight for survival was now entirely in their hands. Days turned into weeks. Hunger gnawed at their bodies, and the freezing cold left many on the brink of death. Desperation forced them to make an unthinkable decision: cannibalism. The group made a pact to use the bodies of those who had perished as a last resort for sustenance. It was a horrifying choice, one that went against everything they believed in, but it was the only way to stay alive. Survivor Nando Parado, who lost both his mother and sister in the crash, later said, "It was repugnant, but the moment we accepted it, it brought us closer together as a group. We knew it was a matter of survival." The psychological toll was immense. Eating the flesh of their friends and loved ones wasn't just a physical act. It was an emotional and moral battle that tested their humanity. Yet their bond as a group deepened as they supported each other through the unthinkable. As if their ordeal couldn't get worse, on the 17th day, tragedy struck again. An avalanche buried the fuselage, killing 8 more survivors. Those who made it through were left even more desperate, their numbers dwindling and their hopes fading. With no other options left, 2 of the survivors, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa, made a bold decision. They would trek across the Andes to find help. Armed with only makeshift gear, scraps of food, and an indomitable will to survive, they set out on a journey that seemed impossible. The trek was brutal. Over the course of 10 days, Parado and Canessa climbed through treacherous terrain, battling frostbite, exhaustion, and the thin air of high altitudes. Every step was a fight against the elements and their own failing bodies. But their determination paid off when they stumbled upon a Chilean shepherd who couldn't believe the state they were in. They had traveled over 38 miles through the Andes, defying all odds to bring back hope for the others. News of their survival spread like wildfire. On December 22, 1972, 72 days after the crash, rescue helicopters arrived at the crash site. The remaining 16 survivors were airlifted to safety, their ordeal finally over. The images of the survivors, gaunt, frost-bitten, and haunted by their experience, shocked the world. But their story didn't end there. The revelation of their cannibalism sparked controversy and debate. Some criticized them for their actions, while others praised their resilience and will to live. For the survivors, the judgment of the outside world paled in comparison to the gratitude they felt for being alive. In the years that followed, the survivors shared their stories, offering a window into their unimaginable experience. Nando Parado, in particular, became an inspirational figure, traveling the world to speak about resilience and the strength of the human spirit. His memoir, Miracle in the Andes, remains a powerful account of their survival. The story of Uruguayan Flight 571 is more than just a tale of tragedy. It's a testament to the strength of the human will. It forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How far would we go to survive? What sacrifices are we willing to make in the face of death? For the survivors, their ordeal was a brutal reminder of the fragility of life and the lengths we'll go to preserve it. Even today, the crash site in the Andes remains a chilling monument to their story. Visitors often trek to the location to pay their respects and to understand in some small way the horror and heroism that unfolded there. Uruguayan Flight 571 isn't just a story of survival. It's a story of humanity, resilience, and the unyielding desire to live. It's a story that reminds us of the strength we carry within ourselves, even in the most unimaginable circumstances. So what would you have done in their situation? Could you have made the same choices? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more tales of survival and resilience. Until next time, stay curious and remember, the human spirit is capable of extraordinary things.